Hey folks, welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I'm excited to be starting a brand new video series on how to practice better. We're going to take a look at the philosophy of practice and productivity to help you make the most of your time with your instrument. Basically, it's a series where I pretend to know everything about practicing and I tell you to do things that you probably already know you should be doing. Now, I'm really preaching to myself more than anyone here because I still have a lot of work to do in this area, but there have been some helpful things I've discovered along the way that I love to share with you here. As I'm making this video right now, it's close to New Year's, and with all the talk about resolutions and big changes coming up for 2021, I thought it would be good to start the series off by talking about how to set musical goals. But it really doesn't matter what time of year you're watching this, because setting goals is one of the most important things you can do before sitting down to practice, because I guess the goals that you set will ultimately decide what you're gonna be practicing, right? In other words, if you're not setting aside consistent time in your practice time to work towards those goals, you're not gonna be getting better in the ways that you want to. So in this video, we're gonna be talking a lot about goals if you hadn't gathered already. We're gonna talk about why they're so important. We're gonna talk about how to best set goals for you and your personal interests. And then we're also gonna talk about how to accomplish these goals, because that's probably the hardest aspect of this equation, right? So if you like where this is going, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and strap in, because we're getting started right now. Whenever I talk about this topic with my students, and it's actually a topic I talk a lot about if you can't tell from my enthusiasm already, the main objection that I get is something like this: I just play mandolin for fun, so I don't need to worry about setting goals. And I can totally relate to that, because even though I quote unquote make a living at music, whatever that means, I still mostly play music because I enjoy it and I want to keep enjoying it. And that kind of sounds selfish when I say it out loud, but it's true. And I know at first the idea of setting musical goals sounds like you're turning something pleasurable into something a lot more like work, right? But I'd argue that you already have musical goals whether you realize it or not. And if you learn how to set better musical goals, it's actually going to bring you more fun and more enjoyment in the long run. As musicians, I think we all have some level of desire to express ourselves better through our music, right? I don't think I've ever met a musician who was totally satisfied with his or her ability, no matter how good they are. Whether or not that dissatisfaction actually leads to real progress is another story, but I think these base desires of wanting to get better, wanting to keep learning, wanting to have new musical experiences, those are pretty much universal goals that we all have, whether we realize them or not. And personally, I always enjoy playing mandolin more whenever I feel like I'm making progress towards those goals. Maybe that says something about me more than anything else. Shout out to all my fellow number 3 Enneagram peeps out there. But sometimes these big conceptual goals can feel overwhelming or crippling even, because it's almost like you're standing at the base of Mount Everest and you're looking at the top and finally coming to grips with the amount of time and effort it's going to take to get there. You're going to be discouraged by the seemingly lack of progress that you're making because the goal's so far away, and you're going to be overwhelmed. You might even think, what's the point of even starting now? To avoid all this, we need to have better, more specific short-term and long-term goals. That way you have kind of these tangible landmarks to shoot for in your musical journey. And once you do this, you're always going to have a focus. You're going to know what to be working on in your practice time, and you're going to have a visible way of tracking your progress as you tick boxes off your list. Man, I love lists so much. Just checking those boxes brings me so much joy. And as you keep ticking off boxes, it's going to create this positive feedback loop where as soon as you accomplish one item on your list, it's going to give you a dopamine hit, which is going to motivate you and inspire you to keep going and tick more boxes off that list. That's the effect we're after, but to really make this work, you have to understand yourself and what makes you tick personally as a musician in order to best set goals that will keep you inspired and motivated. To make this personal, I was really struggling to find motivation when I first moved to Nashville back in 2013. I just finished up music school and decided to move to Music City because that's where all the musicians are, and I wanted to keep learning and keep getting better, but I didn't have any connections or any prospects of gigs when I landed. And without any direction or outlets for my music, it ended up being kind of a depressing time. Also because I was living in a pretty rough part of town because I couldn't afford rent anywhere else. I had just picked up a part-time job to get by, and I had to work early morning hours. And by the time I got home in the afternoon, I was so tired, I ended up just wasting a bunch of time in front of the TV, feeling sorry for myself, so boo-hoo. But thankfully, after 6 months, I saved enough to quit my part-time job and to take another go at doing music full-time. But I knew I needed to make some changes in order for this transition to last. So what I did was I sat down at my computer and wrote out a 10-year plan of every possible thing that I would want to accomplish with music, along with some really detailed bullet points of short-term and long-term goals that I wanted to accomplish and things that I wanted to keep learning along the way. I've actually still got that document and I have it pulled up here on my desk, and it's pretty fun perusing some of these points. A lot of these goals were really unrealistic. Like, I wanted to learn and memorize 1,000 fiddle tunes. I wanted to practice 40 hours a week every week, and I think I was supposed to have won a Grammy by now. But there were some more practical things on that list that I have been able to accomplish over the past few years, and even some bigger long-term career goals. Like, on this list was I wanted to be in a band of young, like-minded musicians who would push me to keep getting better. And I've been so thankful to have that opportunity through Mile 12 and Cup of Joe and a bunch of other musical settings that I've been a part of. But regardless of what I did or didn't accomplish, this exercise was so helpful because it helped me understand myself better. It showed me what's most important to me with my music, and it showed me what brings me the most joy through music as well. And in my opinion, that's the coolest thing about setting goals, is because even if you don't follow through and accomplish what you're after, you're going to get closer to that accomplishment than if you hadn't set the goal to begin with, which means you're going to be spending more time with your mandolin, which means you're going to be enjoying music more. I feel really strongly that this is something every musician needs, a written record of what you want to do with your music. And if you've never done this before, that's what we're going to do right now. I'm actually going to give you some writing prompts, and what I want you to do is pull up a document on your phone or on your computer and pause this video and take some time to think about your responses. And I know this is starting to sound more and more like work, right? But having a written record is so important. By taking the time to do this now, you're going to get so much more enjoyment and progress out of your time with your instrument. And you don't have to come up with a 10-year plan like I did. That was probably excessive, but you can take these prompts as far as you want to. I just encourage you not to think about it too much. Just go with your gut on this. First up, I want you to write a paragraph or more about how you first came to music. Now, what is it about music that you really love? Are there certain artists that inspired you to first play? Are there pieces of music that really spoke to you at the beginning? Were there any sparks in your imagination about achievements that you might like to accomplish one day through your music? Anything like that. Next, I want you to write down 3 long-term dream goals. Anything with a real tangible end result that you've always wanted to do. Things like starting a band or making a record or maybe playing at a local venue that you've always wanted to play at. After that, try writing down 5 medium-sized learning goals that are within your grasp this year. This would include things like maybe learning all your major scales or arpeggios or scale patterns, or learning how to improvise better, or how to play faster, or how to play up the neck, or learning a new fiddle tune every week. And lastly, try writing down 10 short-term specific goals that you can accomplish maybe within the next week or two. And this can point back to your other goals. Like maybe you want to start off with the D major scale out of all 12 major scales, or maybe there's a certain fiddle tune that you want to learn this week as you learn a new fiddle tune every week. And all the goals that I've listed here I think are really great goals for a bluegrass mandolin player to shoot for, but make this personal. See what you can come up with. Once you finish this writing exercise, you should have something like a funnel where your short-term goals are going to feed into those medium goals, which is going to feed into those long-term dream goals, which is going to bring you back to the spark of what made you pick up music in the first place. So after that exercise, you might already be feeling inspiration to pick up your mandolin and go practice, but the real challenge is to keep that inspiration and keep that motivation going to actually accomplish these goals. And the real letdown is that there's no magic recipe to make this happen, right? Mark Twain famously said that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then starting on the first one. I love that quote. I think I say it to myself and others as often as possible. And it all really boils down to discipline here, right? You actually don't need motivation or inspiration to practice and to follow through with your goals. All you need is the discipline to have a thought to play mandolin, and then to make yourself go do it, knowing that even if you aren't inspired in the moment, you're probably going to enjoy the process as soon as you pick up your instrument and start playing. But you guys already know this because it's the same with every other aspect of life, right? Deeper joy requires deeper commitment and hard work. But while there is no magic recipe to doing this, there are some helpful things that might help you along the way. And the first is to find a real outlet for your musical goals. For me, playing with Mile 12 has really pushed me to progress more than anything. As soon as you're on stage with a bunch of great musicians and you have a real audience in front of you, all of a sudden it really matters if you can play fast, if you can improvise, if you can compose music. It all just comes to a head. So over the past few years, playing in this band has been a fantastic way to bundle a bunch of my goals together to have a tangible output in the end. But even if you're just an amateur player, you can still get this benefit from things like playing in a local band or going to local jam sessions, going to music festivals and music workshops. These are the places where you can really put to work all the stuff that you've been practicing in the practice room. And you can also see all the stuff that you need to keep working on to get better. But even if you can't find these physical outlets nearby, or if there happens to be a pandemic going on when you're watching this video, there's still a bunch of great options that you can use from home. Actually, one of my most helpful outlets as a learning musician was starting this weekly Mandolin Mondays series here on the YouTube channel. And it's hard to believe it's been going strong for 5 years now. That's unbelievable. And I'm really chuffed that it's become kind of this virtual stage for mandolin players around the world to be featured on. But when it started out, it was just me, and I used it as a personal goal to see if I could learn, arrange, and perform a new solo piece every week and share it with people online. And that's what I did every week that first year in. It was a ton of work, and there were lots of times that I thought about giving up, but I knew people were counting on these weekly videos, so I pushed through. And I ended up progressing more in that year than I probably ever have as a musician. So something as simple as like a smartphone music video that you can share with folks online on a monthly basis, or writing weekly songs for close friends, or having daily recitals for your family members if they can bear it. Those would all be excellent outlets to keep you learning and to keep you progressing. And these outlets are so important because you can really see the payoff of that tangible end result. And also, you're sharing your music and yourself with other people, which is probably one of the most valuable things that you can do in music. But it also helps to have some accountability, right? Because I know if I have that social pressure and that tension of people expecting me to actually accomplish these goals that I've said that I'm going to do, I'm much more likely to follow through. And there's a lot of different ways to actually get that accountability. It could be something as simple as taking private lessons. And this is something that I actually still do a lot. Whenever I'm feeling musically stagnant, I'll sign up for some lessons with one of the many mandolin players that I'd love to learn from. Having a regular meeting time with a respected teacher is going to be a great motivator, and they're going to give you personal input on what goals they think you should be working on right now. And shameless plug here, you can sign up for online lessons with me in the link in the description below if this is something that you're looking for. I love to help you in this capacity. Another great way to get this accountability is through one of the many online mandolin learning communities that are out there. You've got Artist Works, Peghead Nation, Mandolin Heal the World, Banjo Ben, tons of great people on Patreon like Tristan Scroggins, Daniel Patrick, Baron Collins Hill, Sierra Hull. Shout out to you guys. You guys do amazing work. I've even got a pretty awesome little mandolin community over on Patreon too, if I do say so myself. And we're gearing up for a big year. The plan is we're going to learn a new fiddle tune or bluegrass song every week. And that comes with video lessons, backing tracks, transcriptions, and tablature notation for all different levels. So if it sounds like something you're interested in, check it out at the link above. And now it's time to throw down the gauntlet, because you can also get accountability by being vocal about your goals to other people. Not to be braggy or to be showy or even to get a dopamine hit without actually accomplishing this goal, but to ask other people's help to help you get there. And this is where I'm going to put some skin in the game, because I want to practice more consistently this year than I have in the past. My goal for 2021 is to practice 2 hours a day, every day, no exception. And to make things more interesting, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. For the month of January, I'm pledging to donate $200 to the International Bluegrass Music Association if I don't practice 2 hours a day every day. If you don't know the IBMA, they're an awesome nonprofit organization that helps support mandolin players and bluegrass players around the world, so a really worthy cause. But I don't really want to be motivated to not give money to charity, so even if I do accomplish my goal, I'm going to give $100 anyways. If this sounds like something that might help you accomplish your goals, let's do this together. Money is a great motivator, and having your personal practice time actually benefit other people is pretty awesome. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours a day. It could be 15 minutes a day, or it could be any of those other goals that you have on your list too. The idea is that we just want to have our mandolin in our hands more consistently so we can accomplish all those goals that we're after. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Maybe you think I'm crazy, but hey, we're going to go for it. And I'll be posting regular updates here on YouTube and over on my Patreon page. We'll be picking new monthly causes to support as we go along. And you can check out more videos that we have in this series here on screen. Check out the playlist. Subscribe if you haven't already. Join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to learn how to play mandolin better. And 2021 is going to be a good year. I'm excited to spend it with you guys.